Welcome to the Writers Are People 2 podcast, where you might just find that you shouldn't meet the writer of your heroes. Tonight we have with us David Giles. So thank you for coming on. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I'm an first-time author as of a few months ago.
Congratulations.
I Thank you. Yeah. I just really enjoy just being a creative in general. So while I do have a novel out and I'm working on another one, I've also done a lot of either visual art or music stuff. Just there's just something in me that's I need to always be making something.
Hmm.
I've moved around a lot, so I've lived in 4 different states in the past 3 years, I think, at this point, and 8 different houses. So someone who's maybe a bit more nomadic than I should be. Currently out of a job, but it's been great.
The correct answer is you're an author.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay, awesome. I like it. Well, I guess I have to ask, does creativity run in the family, or is it just you and Keith?
My brother also does visual art stuff. I know he's had some story ideas, but I don't know if he's ever actually gotten around to finalizing them. And then my mom does a lot of painting stuff just for herself, though.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm half German and half Italian, and I've realized as time progressed that the Italian side of my family is full of artists, actual painters and musicians, and then I'm a writer. My mom likes to write, and then the German side of my family is very mathematics and spreadsheets, and it's just interesting to see how the different sides of your family can come together to create you as a creative.
Yeah. I mean, my mom was a teacher before, and she's German, and so she does a lot more of that side of stuff too, but she definitely has the artistic side, and it's only now I think she actually has the time to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely was before. She was definitely more on the mathematics side.
Great. Well, I guess we'll just go right into your novel. So, There Once Were Orange Groves. Go ahead and give me a synopsis of this.
Yeah. It's a story about grief and trying to process it. It follows 2 siblings who both and they lose their father at the start of the book in a sudden car accident, and then it just follows them as they are trying to learn how to move on from that. It is also, however, non-chronological, so there's some stuff that takes place before he dies and some stuff after and some way after. And yeah, it's just about the original idea for it was I wanted to write about trying to understand someone, trying to understand another person. It came from the fact that realizing me and my brother had such different experiences growing up, despite both of us having a very similar life for quite a lot of our life. Still, there's such a different way that we saw things and interpreted them, just within our own family. And so that was a means of me trying to process that.
What's the age gap between you and your brother?
2 years.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like my little brother and I had very similar to you in the fact that we had different experiences of being raised. Obviously, he's much younger than I am, so he's 9 years younger than I am. So my parents evolved as parents from when they were raising me to when they were raising him, and I feel like we did have very different experiences. But going back to something you mentioned, you said it was very non-chronological. What was your reasoning for doing that? Is that simply a plot device, or was there some messaging behind that as well?
There's very much 2 reasons. One of them is the fact that I wanted to kind of thinking about memory when writing the novel, and the fact that we don't necessarily, our memories aren't going to necessarily accurately represent what happened, and that's how the 2 characters are going to have that different perspective. And then the other part is that I actually just wrote it non-chronologically. I found it easier just to when I had a scene, I wrote it out, and there was a part of me that I think when it started, it was oh, maybe I'll put this in order. But then as it went on, I was realizing more no, it needs to remain out of order, because it being out of order, I'm able to have you are able to follow an arc with these characters that these are different arcs they're going through, even though it's outside of normal time, you're still able to track how they're going.
Okay. So I've heard feedback before because I've done similar stuff like that in my fiction where the timelines are out of order. How did you help the reader understand what was happening and in what order? Did you use dates or what was your method for that?
I didn't use dates. I do have the personal sheet that I like where I
Hmm.
keep all that list, but I just kind of trust the person that they know, like, oh, this character's in college at this point, so we know that's before he's died, or um the fact that I tried to put a lot of events that have happened, so if that event hasn't happened yet, we know it's before that.
Okay.
So like the death being a big one, so and then character being in college, one of the characters moves out of state, and then one of them then visits for Christmas, and so by having all of those events set up, that way you're able to follow it a bit easier. Um,
Yeah. I feel like that's a trap that I fall into as an author, and I'm like, let me handhold my reader through this. But readers aren't dumb, not all the time. Some of them are.
yeah,
But like,
we're not talking to you, listener. You're not
exactly,
dumb.
yes. If you're watching this, you are very intelligent. Thank you. Don't forget to hit that like button too. But yeah, I feel like sometimes we don't give the reader enough credit for as intelligent as they are. For God, I can't even talk right now. We don't give the reader as enough credit for as intelligent as they are. I still probably didn't
Yeah,
say that right. Anyway, we clearly know
it's
who the
fine.
least intelligent person here is. um, Moving on real quick, you've branded this as an auto fiction. And
Mhm.
so I feel like every author, puts bits and pieces of themselves in each of their characters. But why did you decide to write an entire character as yourself? And is that a little vain?
Yeah. Um. So it's not auto fiction necessarily in the way that you would expect, because it's not okay. There are While there are the two siblings, there is also a section of the book which is me telling you why I'm writing the things that I'm writing and what I'm going through in my life, and then slowly realizing, because this is genuinely what happened, where I'm realizing things that have happened to my characters are like kind of also then happening to me in a weird way. Like one of the characters moves out of state, and this is how they feel about it. And then I realized that it's too expensive to live in Southern California after graduating college, and I need to move out
Yeah.
of state. Um,
Where did you go to college?
I went to Biola
Okay.
University. Um, they had a program that meant I didn't have to do regular GEs, so that was why. Um, and then I it is also the autobiographical that the two siblings do go through events that I have gone through as well. Like there's a scene where one of them goes to El Pollo Loco and gets Foster trees, and like that scene is basically a thing that has happened to me, almost detail for detail, but happening to a different character.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, and so I've interviewed your father on here before, Keith. I'm assuming
mhm.
this is not about him specifically.
Not specifically. There definitely was the father character was very much a mix of both of my parents and then also my grandfather, because my grandfather passed away in 2020, and I had a mixed relationship with him at best. So I was trying to like process through that. Because there's I think those moments when yes, this is a grandfather, he's family, he loves me, and then there's other moments when you just don't feel that.
Mm.
Um, and so I wanted to like kind of approach that topic, and it probably would be easier to make a book about grieving the loss of a parent than grieving the loss of a grandfather.
Mm.
So that was a big part of that. But definitely is partial. The character is of wow, I'm blanking on his name. The father character is very much a mix of both my parents and then also my
Mm.
grandfather.
Well, Keith, if you're watching this, I just hope David, as he has manifested other things in his book to come to fruition, I hope for your sake this does not come to fruition.
Please do not die by a drunk driver hitting you. I know you live in El Paso, and that's the hobby of drunk drivers, but please, not that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that we've clarified that now.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're familiar in name, at least, with Jordan Peterson, and he
Sadly,
has,
yes.
and he to paraphrase him, he had this thing that he said one time, and this is very, very paraphrased,
Mhm.
but he says that humanity writes stories to prepare ourselves for the what ifs in life. And
Mhm.
he was referring mostly to like the evil characters like the dragon, like what do we do when we come across a
Mhm.
dragon? How do we conquer the dragon kind of thing? Again, very paraphrased. But what is this what if of life that you're trying to prepare yourself or the reader for?
Yeah. For me, it didn't necessarily feel like completely preparation. It felt more like a response and a processing. I think though it is what I hope the reader gets out of it in that sense would be the ability to like sympathize with someone else, especially like those people who hurt you, and realizing maybe they meant well by it, and just trying to um have some grace there. Because it is, yeah, as mentioned, it's trying to be about like understanding your own limited perspective and trying to see outside of that. Um, and it's definitely a part of it where it's just like how like there is a character, an aunt character who's um emotionally mistreats the two siblings, but also at the same time it's like you can tell that the reasoning why is because she wasn't necessarily taught how to emotionally process things, or just wasn't given that space when she was growing up, and that hurt is now going on and hurting someone else. And just trying to just trying to have a bit of like sympathy for this person who you don't necessarily have to like. I started out the novel by being like, this person's trash, and by the end of the novel just was like, I feel so bad for this person. I'm sorry for all the things they've went through, partially because of me, because I'm writing them. It was just like, wow, this is sad, and I care for this character at this point.
Yeah. So your sister in the novel, Audrey, do you actually have a sister, or is it just you and your brother?
I just have a brother.
So
I wouldn't say it's
Audrey
one-to-one.
I'm sorry, please repeat that.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a one-to-one comparison. I think me and my brother are both equally both of them.
Okay, got it. You know, at this point in my career as a writer, at least, and I feel like lots of other people, not everybody, but most people are writing things that are not so deep. We're writing about dragons and magic and spaceships, and there can be deep themes, but I feel like the entirety of your book is deep. So what's your inspiration behind writing something so deep as your first novel?
Yeah. Um, I will have to thank one of my previous teachers, Paul Buchanan, who always talked about, okay, but what's the news of the world in it? Where is anything human in your story? You need to have that, like, and just always like beating that into us in the most hilarious and loving way possible. Great sense of humor. And so just trying to make sure that when I wrote something, it was something I wanted to say, and not just writing it because I found the story necessarily interesting. It was like I wanted to put these ideas out there. And I think the reason, I'll be honest, when I was writing it, my parents were like, hey, this is very vulnerable and honest. Are you sure you want other people to be reading these things that you have been through and you've thought, like, maybe, pearls before swine, don't do some of this? And I'm just like, you're probably right, but also, hey, whatever. Let's just assume that someone is, at least one non-swine is going to pick up one pearl, and that's going to be enough for me then. And it was just like, I think another part of it's to that the films I tend to watch also tend to be I tend to prefer ones that are a lot more just artsy and like experimental and pretentious or something like that, and just like I wanted to just like that's what I wanted to make, and that's why I did that. And I don't tend to like watch. I wish I liked fantasy. I don't dislike fantasy. I just don't actively like fantasy.
Well, there's an audience for everything.
Yeah.
And you said you were pretentious out of your own mouth, so I won't judge you on that. But going back to
not, but I'm going to assume that it is.
Going back to the vulnerability part, I feel like as creatives, specifically authors, it's part of the game to be vulnerable. If we're not being vulnerable, then we're probably not writing an engaging story, because characters are what the readers keep coming back for. And if we're not writing, again, every character that we write is a piece of ourselves. So we have to be vulnerable in order to create those engaging characters. So at least you've done that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gotten some really good feedback from people about that and felt very satisfied with that.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Did you want to read an excerpt now?
Yeah, I can do that. Let's see. I'm gonna just read. It's a bit late into the book for me to read it, but you know what? I'm just gonna pick that bit anyways. This is
Do it.
nearing the end of the Audrey part 13. So Audrey's section, and then part 13 of that. And to give a bit of a setting, it's Audrey talking with her roommate Abby, and they are currently living in Idaho, Meridian, Idaho, which is right next to Boise, and just it's them talking with each other about what they think of this place. So, anyways, here's the section. So many people love it here, and I wonder what I'm missing about it, she said. I just wish I could see this place the way they do. I wish I could appreciate the beauty of this place. It isn't ugly. No, not by any means, she said. It is just like classical music to me. I know it is beautiful, but something doesn't connect with me about it. Don't do classical dirty like that. Next you're going to tell me I should like Idaho, she said. I've tried to recognize it the way I did in California, but it never felt like a place I can love or call my own. It started to snow outside. Abby took a sip of the wine. I don't want to go back to California. I just don't know what I want. You want Idaho to work? Maybe I do. Maybe I just want heaven and earth to meet and live there, if that's not too much to ask. They sat in silence for a bit. Abby looked out the window and watched the pathetic amount of snow gather up on the uncovered patio. Mind if I play some music? Abby asked. Depends. I'll let you know when I hear it.
Awesome. Thank you. We're in Idaho.
Boise Meridian area.
Okay.
Specifically in Meridian, but a lot of people call Meridian Boise the same way people call Orange County LA, or Fullerton LA, and everything in SoCal LA.
So I'm from Santa Barbara originally, and as far as I'm concerned, everything between Ventura and San Diego is LA. Just all of it.
Yeah, that's generally the opinion.
It's funny because I had some friends from Santa Barbara, and some of them moved to Boise. I've never been to Boise. And some of them also moved to Coeur d'Alene. And so there is no pathetic amount of snow there, because I went and visited my friend for his wedding there, and there was way too much snow.
Yeah. It's definitely a place where it can just, I think, because I've been there twice, once during the summer and once during the winter. And I think when I went during the winter, it was like all throughout December, no snow. And I think after I left, it just all arrived. But it took quite a while. It took till the next year. And during Christmas, there was basically nothing.
Wow. So you mentioned that you're writing another novel right now. What's this one? Just as deep or a little more?
It's not as experimental. It is just about a guy who his father has passed away, because I guess I can't write anything without a dead dad. Oops.
Watch out, Keith.
His father passes away, and he inherits his father's train set, and so he's just trying to maintain this thing, but it's pretty large and it's constantly getting covered with dust. And then it's about him trying to maintain that, and then just kind of about just trying to be content with the dullness of life, while him and his fiance of a year still don't have a day planned for actually getting married. So yeah.
And do you have a working title for that yet?
Currently it's just called Sleeper Car, but I probably am not going to stick with that one.
All right. Well, everybody keep an eye out for Sleeper Car and or variant titles. Any final comments before I let you go?
Yeah. If you guys are interested, please check out the book. Give it a 5-star review on Amazon if you like it. If you don't, still give it a 5-star review on Amazon. It's about letting me put food on the table. Yeah. But
author is your career now. So
yes, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, everybody. David Giles.